Hello everyone, welcome to my very first video, and today we will begin my new Kid Core island. This video will be focusing on making a cute entrance to our island. Here is the space we will be working with. As you can see, we have a pretty big area, which gives us a lot of room to shove as many items in it as we can. So without further ado, let's get started with the speed build. I started by clearing out the area that we would be building in, gobbling up those cherries so that our villager girl had the strength to move out all these trees. The airport is actually very far away from the resident services building. I'm thrilled about this because on my Switchlight Island, my resident services was right up next to my airport. So even after all these years that the game has been out, I still don't have a very cute entrance. Technically, this will actually be the first true entrance I've ever built. I believe that's why I went a little overboard on the terraforming. You'll see what I mean later. Now it's time to open up that Island Designer app and start building. I was originally just gonna go straight into the cliffs, but I know I wanted a small river kind of trickling behind the left cliffs, so I decided to just quickly mark out about where I wanted it to flow before I built my cliffs. That way I could really make sure I left enough space for that river. It doesn't need to be perfect, I'll go back and play with it later, but right now it's just a mental note more than anything. Now that that's out of the way, it's time for the cliffs. Now, I'm not really wanting to build any inclines on these cliffs or anything. They're simply just for me to add some height variation and clutter the top with mushrooms. That's actually the main reason I wanted to build cliffs. The only ideas I had for this area were that I wanted a mushroom forest kind of feel, and I knew that I wanted to accomplish that with the mushroom platforms and cliffs. That was literally the only plan I had going into this build, and it really showed when I was editing. Man, I went through what felt like hours of footage of just me running around in circles, breaking cliffs, putting them back, and then adding to that Bianca deciding to just plop her little bottom right where I'm trying to build, but then when I move to the right side, she just immediately stands up and zooms away. Oh my gosh, I swear she's just trying to sabotage me. Anyway, once Bianca moved, I added a bit more to the cliff. That way you could actually see it when you're standing on the airport walkway thing. Yeah, the airport walkway thing. I was apparently satisfied to just move on to the right side, so off I went just sketching out about how far back I wanted it to go. I wanted to be careful to not have the plaza be covered by the trees and other stuff on top of the cliff when you're standing in it, but of course my shovel just had to break. I actually had a very smart idea, and instead of just buying a flimsy shovel from Nooks and having it break on me again in 2 minutes, I used Tom Nook's workbench and used the iron I had for moving the rocks that broke my shovel in the first place. Work smarter, not harder. Typically, I just buy the normal shovels from Nook's Cranny, well, as normal as they get, cough cough, print a design shovel that looks like a grandma's quilt, cough cough. But when I was building this, I had not yet unlocked the big shop. As of recording this voiceover, I have finally unlocked the big shop, so I will be going back to purchasing my shovels, grandma's quilt shovels, or otherwise. Anyway, detour out of the way, cliffs. I just want to build my cliffs. I have so much footage of me just building these cliffs, but I don't think you want to watch a 2-hour YouTube video today. So I opted to instead just show you as I sketch the outline of them, and then just clipped out the parts where I'm filling them in. That way you won't get too bored. I do want to talk about my river though. The big reason I wanted that small river flowing off behind the left side was because I wanted a corner waterfall on the right. You'll see me add that waterfall in a few seconds here. I thought it would be really fun to hop over a stream in order to get to resident services. One thing you'll notice about my terraforming style is that I use this jumping mechanic as much as I can. I think it's adorable and will always prefer it over bridges. Now it's finally time to start decorating. I started off by using this pastel rainbow custom design. I couldn't decide if I wanted it just on the grass or if I preferred it on top of an in-game path. The only in-game path I had was dirt, and I absolutely hated it. So then I bought some stone, and I ended up hating that too. I ultimately decided to just leave it on the grass, so kinda wasted my miles on that. I settled on just the plain path because I liked that the path had round edges, and I believe that those would be cut off if I put a path underneath it. I placed the path on the other side of the river as well, and then it was time for me to dive into my massive hoard of items. Oh my gosh, Emily, what the heck? You can thank my Switchlight Island for these donations, because as you can tell by my house in the background, I'm still so broke. I was about to place my first item, but then I went up the cliff once and said no. I didn't want to keep pulling my ladder out, so I decided to make a ladder setup kit and customized it green so I could also use it to decorate the cliff after I'm done using it. Wow, the good ideas are flowing today. See, look at him, he's a good ladder. I almost forgot to grab some custom designs. I will leave all the creator codes of the designs I used in the description below if you find one that, strikes your fancy. I'm still not set in stone on what custom designs I will be using on this island, but once I have a better understanding of which ones I will be permanently using, I'm going to make a Google Doc with all those main patterns inside. I'll let you know whenever I get around to doing that. My good old ladder setup kit out of the way, and then it's time. I don't have a drum roll sound effect yet, but just pretend with me, okay? It's time for the first item! Yay! Woo! Psych, I decided to put a pinwheel there instead. It's fine. The small mushroom platform got his chance. He's right there. He's just behind the pinwheel instead. Calm down. Because of my non-existent plan, I spent most of my time decorating, just frantically running around. Wait, this is my favorite part. Oh my gosh, the duck. Oh, I love him so much. Anyway, most of my time decorating was spent just throwing items around, slapping custom designs on the floor, and just kind of hoping that it looked semi-nice. I used a lot of the simple items from the early game, things from the Super Mario set, these leaf umbrellas, which are like the first DIY you get, I believe, and I threw in some Sanrio furniture as I have the Sanrio amiibos. As I mentioned earlier, I'm very broke on this island. I basically speed ran it to 3 stars because I was so excited to decorate. So excited, in fact, I forgot that I had like 0 items inside my catalog to actually decorate with. I do think I made the best of it though, and I can always come back and change or add to it later when I get more items. Another reason I feel like I was struggling was because of how new of a build style this was for me. My first island that I keep going on and on about. I started it when the game came out. I would say it lies on the bridge between Fairy Core and Cottage Core, but then again it also has a few Farm Core areas, whatever, it doesn't matter. The point I'm trying to make is that the color palette over there is pretty much the polar opposite of Kid Core. On my other island I used a lot of white, brown, green, and yellow, mostly white actually. Kid Core is, well, not white. As we were on the topic of the Mario items, you did see me do a little time traveling here. That's because I felt like I just needed more of that height that I was looking for. So I really needed the Mario goal pole. I thought it would look perfect and I really love it. I didn't really care too much about the Mario items when they first came out, except for the pipes. Those are a really helpful addition to the game, but man, they're coming in clutch for this build. After seeing the goal pole there, I decided to make a few adjustments to the right side. You couldn't really see the big red mushroom platform on the top, so I was just gonna flip-flop the small and large mushrooms, but then I decided to go steal some bamboo trees from myself. I like the variation of green they added to the top. I moved baby yellow platform to the foot of the goal pole, and of course I had to add a gyroid. I love gyroids. I loved collecting them in all the past games, but I especially love what they did to them in New Horizons. Nintendo did such an amazing job with their glow up. I love how small they are, that way I can fit more of them in an area, as well as just being able to put them on tables, just so perfect. Now I'm going in with these grass standees. That way when you're walking past on ground level, you have something to look up at. I also crafted and customized this destination signpost to, again, add more height. I replaced the table the gyroid is sitting on with a mushroom platform, and I've added a few more details before officially shifting my focus to the left side. I mostly just used greenery on this side. I didn't go too overkill with the items, but I did place this well. I'm not sure if it matches the whole kidcore theme, but for now it can stay. I threw in some flowers. I want red cosmos up there eventually, but for now red mums will have to suffice, and went through with some final touches, and by final touches I mean basically just custom designs. I thought I was done with the build here, but I came on a little later in the evening and quickly just finished this river. They were so close to connecting, I just needed to make it permanent. And with that, finally, the entrance is done. Here's how it looks. I time traveled earlier in the day so you could see it better. Of course, just because I'm recording the final view, all of the villagers on the island had to crowd into this one area, so I guess just try your best to ignore them. Even with the struggles, I think I did a great job on my first kidcore build. I absolutely adore the view of the river from the top of the cliffs. I'm so glad I was able to finish it in time. I think the only thing I would improve looking back is just changing the pastel rainbow path to something else. I'm not sure if it really matches the heavy reds of the mushroom platforms, so maybe don't get too attached to those. I might change them at a later date. Here's the aerial shot. I could have gotten a better shot of the left cliffs. I apologize, I was preoccupied. Nonetheless, this was a super fun build for me. It really pushed me out of my comfort zone and allowed me to experiment with a very new color palette that I've never really dipped my toes in before. I really hope you enjoyed watching this video, my very first video. It really means a lot to me that you've decided to stick around until the end. Next Friday, I will be back at 2 p.m. EST with a new video. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you next week.